You're entering the wind tunnel. No spin, no bull, just jack. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Here's your Wind Tunnel host, Jack Arute.
Welcome. I'm glad to have you back here inside the wind tunnel. Now, this week is a departure from what I call our normal format, and to be quite honest with you, something that I did not expect. Originally, I intended to share with you my conversations with Joseph Newgarden, last week's Acura Grand Prix IndyCar winner, as well as Bill Hribar, general manager of Jennerstown Speedway. And my third interview was to be with former NASCAR Cup and current NASCAR on Fox analyst Clint Bowyer. But as Bowyer and I talked, I immediately knew that any attempt to edit our session together to better fit the traditional three-guest wind tunnel format would mean that you, the wind tunnel listener, would be cheated. Cheated of a freewheeling visit with a guy who loves racing and loves NASCAR, but does not shy away from controversy or saying what's on his mind. So I decided to call an audible and move my visit with Joseph Newgarden to next week. I'll still introduce you to NASCAR's newest Advance Auto Parts weekly series track, the Jennerstown Speedway, when the track's general manager Bill Hribar stops by, and he and I will discuss Jennerstown's history, its commitment to the community, and the rich heritage that is Jennerstown Speedway. And then it's all Bowyer without limits. Clint shares how he went from punching a time card at his father's Muffler Shop to why he has become one of the sport's biggest personalities. And along the way, you'll hear Bowyer give his opinion on NASCAR's next-gen car and why he thinks the industry still needs to address some issues with the car, especially on short tracks. Speaking of short tracks, you don't want to miss Bowyer's story about the only trophy that he keeps in his man cave. But before we launch the guest portion of the show, I've got to catch up on last weekend's action. And believe me, there was a ton of it. NASCAR's truck racing series kicked off the action under the lights on Thursday night at that paperclip in Martinsville, Virginia, the Martinsville Speedway. And in the end, it was a Cup driver who took the honors.
It's been a long time since he's run with any sort of regularity in the truck series, back to 2016 where he won 7 times. He is back tonight, and he is back in victory lane. William Byron wins at Martinsville.
From 32nd to 1st, it looked like a perfect night. Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. I've never won a race at Martinsville, and struggled here when I was in late models, and yeah, just awesome to get the win tonight.
Saturday was filled with action. Out in Long Beach, California, it was IMSA's WeatherTech series tackling the street circuit, and the end result was redemption for Chip Ganassi's Cadillac DPI team.
With Ring of Anders and Sebastian Bourdais, all the bad luck is out of the way. Finally, the sun is shining on the 01, and Chip Ganassi Racing and Cadillac win the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Sebastian Bourdais and Ring of Anders. What a comeback. That is a very fitting victory.
Then it was cross country all the way back to Martinsville for NASCAR's Xfinity Series.
54 slipped up pretty big.
Yep.
Deep
White
there.
flag.
19's there.
Half a mile to go. Here's Jones again.
54 still slipping up.
Doing it clean right now.
Gibbs up the track. No contact this time. Jones down low. Gibbs up high. Here comes Brandon Jones. First win of the year. Unbelievable.
For Ty's sake, it's tough to be the leader in that position, right? I've seen that multiple times where that bottom guy is just going to have more of an advantage to be able to manipulate you and do things. And so I think that all day long we made the right moves, we made the right calls, checked a lot of boxes today, got a lot of points, dash for cash next week. So very, very big day for this 19 group.
While Jones grabbed the victory, it was what happened after the race that caught everyone's attention.
Oh, we got some angry fellas here.
Ty Gibbs, Sam Mayer.
Helmets on.
Oh, and there's a punt.
Two in.
Ty Gibbs going after Sam Mayer, and we've got a fight at Martinsville.
The weekend also featured a full card of NASCAR's Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series action. And to run it all down, here's Performance Racing Network host of At the Track, our buddy Lenny Baticki.
Thanks a lot, Jack. This is your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series report. We'll start out in California at All-American Speedway. Dylan Zampa taking both wins there. Trevor Huddleston the same, taking both wins at Irwindale, while at Kern Raceway Park in Bakersfield, Brandon Wiley and Danny Wagner split the bill. Dan Curry, a winner at New York's Bethel Motor Speedway. Coos Bay in Oregon to Preston Luckman. Aaron Wilson, a winner at Washington's Evergreen Speedway. Dominion Raceway in Virginia, Daniel Silvestri and Peyton Sellers split the victories, while Brendan Queen Butterbean won at Langley. Greenville Pickett Speedway in South Carolina to Josh Berry. Akinori Ogata got the checkers at North Carolina's Hickory Motor Speedway, while at Wake County Speedway it was Austin Crumpler. Bobby Pierce Jr., the smooth operator, getting the win at I-80 Speedway in Nebraska. Meridian Speedway in Idaho, Neil Latham and Josh Jackson both getting victories. Wayne Parker, a winner at Florida's New Smyrna Speedway. Salina Highbanks in Kansas to Chris Theodore. And out in Tucson, Arizona, Tucson Speedway, Annika Rocco O'Brien and Colton Tutt both getting victories. That's your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series report. Thanks for having us on, Jack. We'll chat with you next time.
Saturday night, it was back to Martinsville Speedway and time for the NASCAR Cup Series to strut their stuff.
Green, white checker. Byron versus Logano on the front row. Here we go.
Good restart by the 22.
Byron clears Logano. Dylan in third.
Oh, we got too high.
He takes the white flag.
There it is. Is he going to move him? He is.
Shot.
He's in the back of him.
Shots fired off
That's
turn
a
two.
really good defense.
I don't think he can get to him. He tried.
And William Byron comes off turn four to win at Martinsville.
I thought everyone behind us would pit, and luckily, we stayed out. We were aggressive. We felt like we could refire on the tires and be okay, and you got one of the most aggressive guys behind you in Logano, and I knew, I chattered the tires in 3 and 4 and kind of left the bottom open, but was able to kind of block my exits and get a good drive off. So this one's from my mom. She last time this same weekend last year, she had kind of a mini stroke and was diagnosed with brain cancer. So it means a lot to have her here, and it's been a crazy year, but she's doing great, and thanks everybody for the support. I kind of felt like she was riding there with me. So
the weekend came to a close on Sunday afternoon when we went back to the streets of Long Beach, where the NTT IndyCar Series contested the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Grosjean gets an excellent launch to go with Joseph Newgarden. Will he have enough to make the move at the restart?
That's a great jump. Push to pass is disabled for 2 laps, or for 1 lap, after a restart. He's going to try to make it work on the outside. Those front tires are going to be good on the brakes, but Joseph holds him off as Pato O'Ward goes by Scott Dixon.
Pato O'Ward with the big send. Now this was the tricky part of the track on the last restart for Ericsson. Watch these guys just dance carefully through here.
And now we see Takuma Sato in the wall in turn 8. Oh no, with 2 laps to go, are we going to finish this thing with caution?
Joseph Newgarden is a Long Beach Grand Prix winner.
Now that you have what's happened this past weekend, why don't we kick things off, okay, with our guests? Time to welcome them in for this week's Wind Tunnel.
First up this week,
the Jennerstown Speedway Complex originated in 1929 as the Jennerstown Fairground and has evolved over the years several times to what it is today, a .522 asphalt racing oval.
It's time for Wind Tunnel's Short Track Spotlight, a look at one of the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series tracks. You'll meet this week's Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap guest after this message.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance. Man, this is for all those guys. There's a ton of them out there that are like me, that have won here and all these great short tracks around here. We can do it. We just need the opportunities. Today proved it. Yeah, it's a short track, but it's still damn hard to win here, and we did it.
They are hometown heroes, drivers who put their passion on the line in front of their friends.
Here we go, 3 wide, got Sellers up into marble.
Halfway home in this one. Off turn 4, he heads for the checkered flag.
They're 3 wide in 2 different rows.
Buckle up and hold on tight.
Time now to focus the spotlight on hometown heroes with this week's Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series, driving local racing in local communities forward.
Well, taking the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap this week is a track spotlight opportunity for us. The newest member of the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series is Jennerstown Speedway, with a rich heritage there in Pennsylvania. And their general manager, Bill Hribar, joins us now. Bill, welcome to the Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series family. Got to be excited about adding that to the resurgence of Jennerstown Speedway.
We really are, Jack. Thanks for having me. And it's a great opportunity. We've got some wonderful things going on in Jennerstown over the last several years. We're actually going in our 8th year of operation. And I always say all the time that it's all about timing in motorsports. It's who you know, what you meet, when you meet them. And the timing, the stars have aligned, and we thought it was a great opportunity to showcase what Jennerstown Speedway has to the country and to the world, for that factor. And by being a part of the NASCAR sanction, again, we thought that was the best way to do so.
Tell me what is on the Weekly Racing Series schedule for Jennerstown in 2022.
So we're actually going to start off with a 6-division series this year.
Wow.
Yeah, loaded card. We've ran 5 divisions, and last year we actually implemented a new division, which is a 602 motor and a late model chassis. So it's kind of like a beginner class for people to transition, and it took off. We had 10, 11 cars the first year. I mean, that's pretty good whenever the inaugural season, and it's grown to probably 16 or 17 opening night this year. So we're going to run a 6-division program as part of the Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series. And we started in May. And what's really nice, Jack, we start at 6:30 at our facility. So we like to tailor to those families and small children. Even 6 divisions will be done by 9:30, quarter till 10. They all get to meet the drivers afterwards. And it's a really great program for everyone.
This is kind of your side hustle, being the general manager at the track. You also spend a great deal of time, you were alluding to kids, dealing with the recalcitrant school children as you have an additional career as a teacher. I'm interested, Bill, having that type of day in and day out interaction with the people that are going to flock to Jennerstown. How does that make you a better general manager?
Well, this is my 15th year in public education, and I absolutely love my teaching job. And at some point, I may have to make the difficult decision which path I want to go. But right now, we're going to burn the candle at both ends. And I tell people all the time that dealing with race car drivers is like just dealing with high school kids. And when I first started out, there wasn't a whole lot of notoriety with the Speedway and people. But now when I wear a shirt to school, it's got Jennerstown on it, or I walk down the hall, people notice it. People recognize it. Hey, I was there. And we do a lot of community activities at the racetrack. So we involve a lot of local school districts. We give families an opportunity to attend the races with programs we do with the school. So there's a lot of things that I've learned through teaching that benefit me at the racetrack. And there's a lot of things I learned dealing with the racetrack, the business side, that benefit me at teaching as well. So they work very closely together and keeps my days full, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
You know, one of the beauties, and we talk about it all the time here on Wind Tunnel, is the fact that the local NASCAR roots, the short track heroes, they put their reputation on the line week in and week out, not in front of thousands of fans that buy a ticket, but instead friends and family. And when you witness that, specifically at Jennerstown, you know, I think it takes a special breed of driver to go out there week in and week out, and a great deal of mutual respect one for the other, to be able to go out and do it amongst your friends the way short track racers do every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night.
So the camaraderie we have at Jennerstown is just, I would put it up against anybody in the country. The friendships you make. We got a really great thing going on here with Advanced Auto Parts, the Advanced My Track Challenge. And there's a story of the all-time winner, Barry Audi. He's got the most victories at the racetrack. He's got 7 championships. And when we were shooting this video, we actually found out that his only a couple weeks old, he was at the track because his grandfather was the welding truck at the track.
Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have several third-generation drivers at the racetrack. Racing is its own family. It's a community. It's a family. My wife and I have 2 children, 7 and 9. We pretty much live at the racetrack. We stayed there in a camper last year, 26 weekends a year, and they are part of the family just with everyone else. You meet drivers like Derek Griffith that come in and support our big shows, Mike Hopkins. I mean, it's just, you become close friends, and it's just such a great family. I mean, I feel like I could rely on my racing family at Jennerstown more than anybody. It's a great thing. And at the end of the night, you share a nice cold beverage. We leave the lights on, and it's like that Days of Thunder feeling. We're sitting on the front stretch wall, leaving the brand new LED lights on, and you're sitting there going, what the heck just happened here? We just had 4,000 people here and saw one of the best races. So it just keeps getting better and better.
Bill, look, there's an awful lot of drivers that show up and they're young guns, as I call them, that embark on what they hope will be the ultimate dream. And the dream would be to make it to NASCAR at the NASCAR Cup level. But there are other drivers that, for various and sundry reasons, just really want to keep doing what they're doing on the local level. What kind of mix have you guys got of that one group and the other group at Jennerstown?
Well, and I think that's defined by the age gap. We've got guys that have grown up, they've started out dirt. Jennerstown paved in '87. We got guys that have raced the first race on asphalt that are still racing today. And, they've exceeded that threshold of ever making it. But, there's been a huge regional championships over the year. You've had Richard Mitchell, you had Charlie Cragen, who was my all-time hero, who's the reason why I'm managing a racetrack today, because the way he taught me when I was a kid. I mean, I'd go hang out with this guy, and here I am later, running the racetrack. And then you have the young guns that are still aspiring to make it. And, they get their roots started at Jennerstown. Our champion from 2 years ago, Albert Francis from Ohio, Painesville, Ohio, he's done a lot more traveling this last year. He couldn't travel because of COVID 2 years ago. He wins a track championship, but he carries that title everywhere he goes. He's raced it in Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nashville. So it's just nice to see a little part of that. But I think guys are not just looking at Jennerstown anymore as a stepping stone. That is their home. That's where their roots are. And if they go somewhere, that's fine, but they're content just being a big fish in a small pond.
Do you think that there's a better connection these days? I mean, there was a period of time where the weekly short tracks felt disconnected from the premier levels of NASCAR. And quite honestly, because of the fact that, once they left your premises and made it to the big time, regulations and contracts with owners kind of prohibited that. But this new young group of drivers, they want to race, and they want to race often. You've got so many more drivers that now, when they have an opportunity, they go back to tracks like yours and want to just race for the fun of it. Do you think it's a better connection now, Bill?
100%. 100%. Even over the last 5 or 6 years, I think NASCAR is doing an excellent job with their outreach program. They're trying to reconnect those roots. They're focusing on the local drivers and their fans, and they're listening to them. I had the fortunate opportunity. I made my first ever trip to New Smyrna here a couple of weeks ago, and that's kind of how the NASCAR deal came together. It was just perfect timing. There's William Byron running a late model, and then 2 days later, he's running the Daytona 500. He just, the same weekend, he wins in Atlanta and he wins in Hickory. So it's great. It's inspiring for these younger guys to say, wait a minute, they're not forgotten about us. Josh Berry is probably the greatest story in NASCAR as far as I'm concerned. Real quick story about Josh. When he ran the car super late model tour last year, we actually flew him up to Pittsburgh to make the announcement in Pittsburgh at the Heinz History Center. I'm like, hey, well, he literally flew up, did the announcement. We're going to quick bite to eat and we'll fly back. And I figured he wanted to go to some fancy steakhouse. He was fine with the Olive Garden. And that's the coolest experience, to be sitting next to, a guy that who I feel is the future of junior motorsports, that, he came to Jennerstown, he sat on the pole, ran a great race, had a chance to win the race. Those guys appreciate what they've had to do to get to where they are. Kyle Larson running all these dirt races. I think a lot of their dirt drivers are happy he's back running full time. He's not, it's a little busier, but it's inspiring. And our guys would love to see, William Byron or someone from Don Wilson Motorsports run one of our races, because they want to race against the best in the country.
Listen, this has been a real treat. You are our very first actual track spotlight here on Wind Tunnel as part of the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap segment. And welcome to the family, my friend. And I'm sure we're going to visit often. And by the way, good luck in that At My Track challenge, because I think that's a wonderful thing that Advanced Auto Parts does and will allow you to do some give back to the community. So go after it. Make yourself a winner the way Berlin Raceway was 1 year ago.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jack. And, I just challenge anybody, keep your eyes out for Jennerstown Speedway. We're going to be part of the Flow Racing deal. And I definitely think if you have the opportunity to come visit us, you won't be disappointed.
You've been listening to the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series, driving local racing in local communities forward. Next, here on Wind Tunnel.
There's so many random things that come out of Clint's mouth. There's just no telling what's going to stick.
Some kind of Kansas country stuff is coming out of his mouth. I don't know exactly what it is, but hee-haws, I guess. I don't know.
He always spoke his mind behind the wheel, and does so now in the TV booth. I'll check in with Clint Bowyer next.
Stay where you are, because there's plenty more to come on Wind Tunnel after this timeout.
Hey, car lovers. At Advanced Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advanced Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advanced Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advanced Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
Welcome back to your podcast home for motorsports conversation, Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel. Here's your host, Jack Arute.
I am excited and pleased to be joined by, well, let's just say an individual that says what comes into his head, and more often than not, actually hits a key point when he's there as part of the NASCAR on Fox team up in the booth. We're talking about Bowyer himself, Clint Bowyer. CB, so great to have you join us, and I meant what I said. You represent every man when you sit up there in the booth, and 99.9% of the time, you're spot on, dude.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Who would have thought that would even work for me? Here's a kid that grew up racing, not a very good vocabulary, don't like reading books. And I'm like, oh my God, what do you want me to, you're going to put me on national television talking like this? But honestly, I have a blast up there. I really enjoy, working with Mike Joy and just the other side of our sport that honestly, I never really realized even happened. You go out there and you race, you come in, you go to dinner on a Tuesday night and you recognize the impact of the sport in which you make a living, in the sense that people recognize you, right? But you have no idea when you're racing and competing week in and week out, how the hell that all comes about. And then when you flip the page to the next chapter in your career and you get into that TV world, immediately you're just in awe of the work that goes into putting that product on everybody's television. And again, love working with Mike Joy. Obviously we had a ton of fun with Jeff Gordon last year in the booth. This year with a kind of revolving door, so to speak, it's been challenging in its own, but honestly, I enjoy that fresh approach every week of, you never know who the hell you're going to be talking to and what perspective, what background they come from. We've had drivers, we've had, Chad Canals to the last couple of weeks, that's a complete different perspective. And everybody knows, right, that the driver crew chief, chemistry is where all the magic happens. And then when it doesn't happen, my favorite part is bickering back and forth. You stupid ass driver, the damn things, you're not doing your job. Well, if your damn car was fast, I could get the job done, So that interaction's been so much fun.
And yet that's a sneak peek behind the curtain of any successful auto racing enterprise, whether it's on the weekly short tracks or at the ultimate at the NASCAR Cup level. I mean, I would say through your career, Bowyer, behind the wheel, you had more than your share of, shall we just classify them as heated exchanges with the guy, whoever it was, on top of the box.
Well, right. And I've been at all, I've had every manufacturer. I've been with 3 different organizations. I mean, I was the mutt of a race car driver, and, some of them worked and some of them didn't. That being said, I learned a lot from both sides of that. The best years of my career, the best year that I ever had was with Brian Patty, as a matter of fact.
One of the great stories of 2012, the resurgence of Michael Waltrip Racing. Tony smoked it down in there. Today, Clint Bowyer going to get them their first trophy of 2012. Great job.
Checkered flag and the win to Clint Bowyer, and Clint Bowyer is going to win at Charlotte.
2012, 2013, dude, we were hitting on all 8 cylinders. That we operated it like it was supposed to be. And I have no idea why it worked. When I said that damn thing was loose getting into, Juan, he just knew, right? We spoke the same language, and he could always wake that car up to what I needed, what I was asking out of it. And then the flip side of that, I've had it to where it wasn't there, and doesn't mean that they weren't qualified or I wasn't qualified to get the job done behind the car, but that chemistry, our communication just didn't jive. Like if I said zig, he zagged, and you're like, what? And that's when it comes out. What in the blue hell did you just do to this thing? I said it was loose, not tight, and it's like, holy cow, how did we get to this side? Like it was, completely polar opposites, and, and it didn't work at times. But again, going back to my new job in that booth, I think both sides, having the experience of both sides of that really helped me, when you're kind of talking about, organization or a race team, or why somebody's really rolling and why somebody's not.
As Clint Bowyer, TV analyst, is he any different than Clint Bowyer, NASCAR Cup driver?
I try not to be. At times, there was a couple times already, I've only been doing it about a year and a half, that I left a little bit, not ashamed, but frustrated with myself, knowing that I should have, every week you have that, right? The odds, something comes up and you're like, damn, I wish I'd have called that differently or worded that differently. Like I said, vocabulary is not my strong suit. But there's only been a couple instances where I just missed the call. And from my perspective, I felt like I missed the call. Obviously, every time you make a comment, 50% of your audience is going to agree with you and the other half isn't. I mean, that's just where we're at in today's world, right? You got about 50% thinking your way. That being said, I remember, it was California this year. Chase Elliott spun out.
Look at this. Whoa! I think Chase might have hit the wall there. He definitely hit the wall. Chase Elliott, after going a lap down, turns it around. And caution waves.
I mean, he did it on purpose, right? He didn't like, he got wronged, and he tried to make a right out of it, and not something that I've done, right? And I stayed off of it, and quite frankly, I should have done. I should have called him out on it. That's my job to do, and I stayed off of it, and I kind of wish I didn't have, But I can tell you this: I'm glad that I did, in the sense that if you would have, you're going to pay the price. Now you're going to do media interviews all week long. Everybody's going to be asking, you're going to, half your fan base is going to hate you, which, by the way, is the most popular driver. I mean, it's just, that kind of stuff, you think about after the fact, when you're up there, it happens this fast, just like you're in the race car. But when you get home and Monday morning quarterback it, just like everybody does on their couch, you're like, damn, missed that one.
Well, let me come to your defense, all right? That is no different, my friend, than when you go hurtling down into a corner and after the fact, and on Monday, when you look at the video from the in-car, you say, oh, crap, I shouldn't have hit him in that corner.
Right. Oh, 100%. But that's what we love about racing, right? Is there's another lap. There's another 10th of a second, and it comes at you really quick. But that was just an instance where, you asked where that ever, where the parallel is in that. And for the most part, it's almost spot on. I love, when I came into that, I kind of thought to myself, right? You have anything in life, you have a new endeavor. You're like, all right, what's how can I make this unique? How can I bring my perspective and my character into a world in which I've been hired to do? And for me, my goal and what I wanted to accomplish in that booth every week was your viewer to feel like I was bench racing with them, sitting on their couch in their living room, calling this race. From my background, my, lifetime experience in racing, I want them to feel like I'm sitting in the couch and we're having a beer together, hanging out, and again, sometimes the racing has a little bit to say with that. Sometimes you can be spot on and nail it. And other times the race is a little stretched out and you got to sell it a little bit. But nonetheless, I want people to feel like I'm hanging out with them.
Clint, you live in two worlds by your choice. One, you'll always be a driver, first and foremost. But now you're part of the air quotes media. How does a guy like you coexist with both? It's one thing to have your Tuesday morning meeting with everybody at Fox. It's another thing to go and maybe shotgun a couple of beers with Kyle Larson and his bride. So how do you balance the two and never stop or sacrifice Clint Bowyer?
I think, you just do it. You gotta live, man. And I'll never let a job, whether it was racing or, being a broadcaster in that booth every week, change that. I'm going to live. I've made a good enough living that I'm going to be fine. I'm doing this because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about the sport, racing in general. And I truly love NASCAR. I believe in the product. I believe in our fan base, that the system works. The engine is there, and such a viable product if you use it correctly. And I think the biggest part of that is media. From my new perspective, I wasn't always the best interview, but I know that I was better than most. I knew that. And it wasn't like I tried to be any different. It's just everybody's personality is different. That being said, from this new perspective, you got kids that didn't grow up with their old man owning a towing service and in and out of service shops, heckling the service driver or heckling the Muffler Shop, and working in race shops and punching a time card. I laughed the other day. I was like, wonder how many of these kids out here on this racetrack right now have ever had their name on top of a time card. I mean, think about that. I bet you there's less than 5. That's pretty incredible, but that's just how the sport has changed, how, the stepping stones of this sport have changed. I mean, I grew up a working class, like my first race car was built behind a Goodyear tire store. I was 16 years old working in a tire store, for crying out loud. I didn't want to go to high school. The only reason I graduated high school is because they had an automotive program at a Vote Technical school across the street. That's literally how I made it through high school. I wanted to be around horsepower and something that burnt gasoline, and that's just the way I was. These kids today aren't raised that way. They're homeschooled, probably in preparation to be a race car driver, and sometimes they miss that social aspect of life. So it's not to mention that doesn't say that they don't have character, that they don't have that in them. I think it's on us to ask them different questions, drag that out of them. Already in my broadcasting experience, you're out there on the grid, you float the old standard. What do you got for a car out there? What's your outlook for today? You're going to get a pretty vanilla generic answer. Stop them. Stop yourself. You better dig in deeper, ask them a different question, get them off, kick them back on their heels a little bit. Float something funny across there to break the ice a little bit. And I believe that that's on us to be able to do that, because I think the star power is there. I'm sorry, Dale Earnhardt wasn't a star when he grew up. He wasn't raised, to be the badass. And when I say badass, I don't mean just in that race car. He owned the sport. He owned the merchandise. He owned the interviews. Everybody in America wanted to be Dale Earnhardt. I don't think that a William Byron or anything else, that those kids are capable of being that. So I think that, a lot of that is on us to get those interviews out of them and bring that to people's television. So where they I can get behind that guy. I dig him.
I'm really interested though, Clint, because this next gen car, we waited, we saw it developed. There's so many talking points that we've all covered to the point where let's just get on with it. So from your perspective, how do you grade the next-gen car and what it's done for the Cup Series?
I'm still giving it an A. Jack, I'm telling you, it deserves an A because of what I've seen on mile and a halves. Let's rewind. The mile and a half through the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a reason we built them. Our sport was skyrocketing. We needed bigger venues to park all these people. We had all this stuff going on, and we needed that. It served a purpose. It was good racing. It created a big environment for everybody to really throw down on a NASCAR weekend. Then it just went south. They were terrible. They were stale. My home track, my favorite go-to track, right? Kansas. It's supposed to be, in theory, my favorite track. I hate the damn place. I hate that mile and a half and pretty much all of the mile and a halves. This new car has over-delivered on every intermediate track we've had. Over-delivered at Daytona. Holy crap. Look at Daytona, how crazy Daytona was. Talladega's coming in a couple weeks. It's going to be the same way. Short tracks. Now, all of a sudden, we got the first of 5 short tracks. We roll into Richmond. We've had chaotic finishes. We've had more cautions and carnage and wild things that you never could have, previewed in a race weekend happen. Get to that short track in Richmond, right back to the same old boring Richmond. And when I say old, when I first started my career, Richmond was the action track. It was the go-to track that everybody loved. You get in that car, and I mean, you worked your ass off. You were, nose to the grindstone, grinding it out every lap, things trying to swap ends on you, trying to push through the corner into the guy on the outside of you. Your workload was through the roof, trying to pass the guy, force the guy into a mistake, only to go to the next corner and make the damn mistake yourself. That was there, and it was alive. I think we've over-delivered on the mile and a halves, the intermediates, and then we get to these short tracks, and we've got a lot of work to do. I think it proves that same principle, the same race car, can't possibly perform the same on a 200-mile-an-hour Las Vegas as it can on a 80-mile-an-hour Martinsville. We've got to work on that. I think it's serious. I think it's obvious already. 2 of the 5 short tracks we've already had, and I've seen enough. Jack, we need an adjustment, and I worry that they're not going to answer that call. I think we're going to ride it out. I think we're going to say it was too cold in Martinsville, and that was the case. Why the tire didn't wear and things like that. I call bull crap. I'm sorry. You got to. I already told the brass at NASCAR. I voiced my opinion and said, hey, man, nobody's more passionate about this sport and is trying to make sure that we over deliver with this car and under promise. And I didn't like what I saw over those first 2 short tracks. You got to give praise because this car has over delivered on these intermediate tracks. That being said, we had an extra year to prepare for this, an extra year. Don't forget, this car was supposed to be on the track last year. We postponed that, waited a year, and then we get to a Martinsville and we don't have the gearing figured out to where, that those cars should have been on the racetrack at a short track. We should have known that shifting was going to come up and address that already. Didn't do that. That's on us as a sport. That's on the sanction body. Got to do better there. Should have known that tire wear wasn't wearing at Martinsville, and we got to do better. Like, those are the things, because you can't allow a budget to get in the way of the product. And I'm just calling it out. That's business 101. We all know that. And NASCAR won't like me saying those harsh words, but it's true. And I'm not going to go without, there's nothing I hate worse than somebody that puts a complaint in and doesn't have an answer. My answer is figure out a budget, figure out a way. We have a test team. We have teams that are capable of doing this. Get those cars on any racetrack that we have a concern with. Get me some options on the table for some of these short tracks that I can look at as a sanction body and a promoter with my promoter hat on and say, I believe that we can sell this. Our broadcast partners can go on and say, all right, we've made this adjustment. We think it's going to do this. Now, collectively as a sport, fan base included, let's go out and see if our hard work and our due diligence shines on that racetrack. If it doesn't, make it another adjustment. But I love what I see out of the car, and intermediates. Short tracks need help.
More of my freewheeling conversation with Clint Bowyer comes your way after we take this time out.
Hey, car lovers, at Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always #1.
This is how we advance.
It's season 2 of your source for racing across America. It's Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel.
You mentioned the short tracks. I'm also heavily involved, thanks to Advance Auto Parts, with the NASCAR Advance Weekly Racing Series that they put a lot of financial commitment behind. You were born and bred on the short tracks. The short tracks are still there. If you took your boots off right now, there'd be some clay somewhere. So how important do you think it is, Clint Bowyer, to maximize the reconnect between the Pinnacle, the top 3 series, and the NASCAR short tracks, or short tracks in general?
So you see it. I'm kind of in my little hangout man cave barn over here, so to speak. It's got a pretty good sized bar right here. But I was at my old man's. My old man sold his towing company, and my back corner, right where old Clint Bowyer started. That's where all the magic happened. So many nights, me and the old man down there arguing, having fun, listening to Elvis on the radio. But hold on, you asked what it meant. Check this baby out. You see that right there? I saw it, that guy's like, I'll be damned. Lakeside Speedway, NASCAR weekly racing track, 2001. That was the old Frostbite Open Invitational, by the way. Bam! And won that baby. I saw it. I was like, there's only one damn trophy in here is what I'm trying to say. And I saw that one. It's an old school trophy. It's kind of an old barn. So I thought it was perfect. But that meant something to me. That's what put drivers like myself, Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, the list goes on, and Denny Hamlin. That weekly racing series, without it, there's no way in hell I'd have ever made it to this level in the sport. Every sport has stepping stones, whether it's, my nephew playing baseball. We started with rec ball. Now we're travel ball. Hopefully he gets seen, by a college, and then AAA, and the stepping stones goes on. Racing is no different. NASCAR is no different. And I think it is so important to never lose track of that. We have to have these weekly racing tracks, which, by the way, make up the majority of our fan base. 90% of our NASCAR fan base, when they're there on a Sunday, are usually at their weekly racing track down the road somewhere on a Friday and Saturday night watching our local heroes, dreaming of being there on Sunday. That's how the product works. We ever lose track of that? I love iRacing. I'm an iRacing guy, and I'm telling you, there is no product that blows your mind more than iRacing. I'm on it all the time. Everybody, my peers, the NASCAR guys are on it every night. It has a place, but it's not a stepping stone. Sorry. There's nothing that replaces those Friday and Saturday night under the lights, beating and banging, grinding it out, working hard on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get back to that next weekend. That is the base of our sport. And without it, we collapse. There is no top. The top of the mountain, the base of it holds it. And you've got to climb your ass to the top of it. Once you get there, it's a good feeling. But without that climb, it doesn't happen.
I've always said the difference between when you were driving a Cup car, or Kevin Harvick, or anybody at the Cup level, and the guys that compete, whether it's Lakeside Speedway, you name a local short track, is when they're done, they don't board a corporate jet. They don't have a series of handlers. They climb into the cab of whatever they're towing their race car with, take it back to the garage, and then burn the midnight oil until their time to load it up and go back to the track again, and then put their ass on the line in front of their friends and family. To me, that's the definition of passion.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, I don't know how many times, hey, it was either a Taco Bell night or Outback Steakhouse. How good a night did you have? That's the way it was, man. You run like a busted up out there and didn't get it done, man. I'm telling you, every night my old man would pull in a Taco Bell. So I guess this is all we can afford. You win, we're headed out back, baby. It's just the way it is. But I love that. I'm telling you, the other aspect of that, I'm not lying. Those were the best years of my racing life. We had so much fun. The people, the followers, which, by the way, I wasn't the only one that went on this ride. You know, so many fans, uncles, people that helped me get there. You look over your shoulder on any given weekend at a NASCAR track, you're like, oh my God, that guy's been following me in the grandstand since Lakeside in 2001 with that trophy right there. Look over at Kansas Speedway and there the guy still stands. You know, it's those memories and those people that you take with you, they last if you do a good job and you take care of them. You know, it ain't no different than anything in life. He's going to open some doors for you. You got to be willing, courageous enough to blow through that damn thing, and then humble enough to get in there and remember where you come from and make sure that you take care of business.
Listen, it's been a treat. Could go on for hours and hours. Don't be a stranger, because you've got a lot to say that is extremely important. You say it with emphasis and with passion. Hey, Clint, good luck. Appreciate it. And really, don't be a stranger here in the wind tunnel, okay? Because you've got a forum here, not quite as massive as the one you've got working with Mike Joy and that revolving door of analysts that Fox is bringing on board this year. But you're always welcome, because your points are just so important to get out there.
Man, I appreciate it. These podcasts always get me in trouble, though. I get comfortable hanging out with my buddies, and then next thing you know, you've run your mouth too much, and NASCAR's calling.
Hey, you'll get over it, and they'll get over it, okay?
It's all good till Fox Boss calls. I'm good. I can handle NASCAR. It's when the other one calls. That's when it's time to call it off. Pull the plug. Pull the shoots, baby. We're done.
Hey, thanks, man.
Thanks, pal. See ya.
Time to button up this week's episode of Wind Tunnel, and I'll do that after you listen to this message.
Hey, car lovers. At Advance Auto Parts, we have what you need to keep your car running all season long. So if you enjoy getting ahead of the curve when it comes to taking care of your ride, Advance Auto Parts has everything to keep your ride on track to reach the victory lap. Because you can trust the team at Advance Auto Parts to assist you in finding what you need at the right price. Stop by Advance Auto Parts, where you're always number one.
This is how we advance.
Well, that's a wrap for this week. Make sure that you return, though, next week. Joseph Newgarden will join me, and you will meet a driver from NASCAR's Euro Series that races this season while his home country fights for their freedom. You don't want to miss my conversation with Ukrainian racer Yevgen Sokolovsky. That's all coming your way when we get back together again next week.
You've been listening to Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR. Follow us on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And be sure to subscribe to Wind Tunnel's YouTube channel, where you'll discover bonus content. I'm Lenny Baticki of Performance Racing Network's At the Track Show, saying thank you for joining us today. See you again next week.